I chose to review the Common Sense Media website, and there were 3 areas that we were asked to look at in reviewing this site. The first was to scroll down and look at the overview of the personal toolkit on cyberbullying. And what the overview does basically is simply explain to teachers what it is they're going to find in the cyberbullying toolkit, and also talks about ways that teachers can work with parents to help put the kibosh on cyberbullying as well. We were then asked to look at one of the lesson sections, and I opted to look at elementary school. In this particular area, there are 2 lesson plans that are presented. The first one is for grades 2 to 3. And what this does in this lesson, and I'll click on the link so you can see, is it helps children develop strategies for what they should do when someone is actually cyberbullying them. There is a lesson plan, there is a list of the objectives for the lesson, there's a handout, and then there are several segments related to the lesson where the teacher is directed how to first introduce the activity, then the first teaching activity that really focuses on vocabulary, the second that focuses on strategies that kids can use when they're being cyberbullied, and then a wrap-up and an assessment where the questions actually that are presented here are really good for understanding clearly what the objectives are. And then finally, there's a segment on an extension and homework. Looking at the second elementary school lesson, this is for 4th and 5th grade students. And I really liked it because instead of being a repeat of what to do when you're being cyberbullied, it talks about what can kids do when they're aware that someone else is being cyberbullied. And I think that's really important because we focus a lot on what happens if it's you who is the victim. But we don't talk as much about what happens when you see it happening to somebody else. And there's an awful lot more of that, I think, than of the kids being directly cyberbullied. So what this lesson does is, again, there's a variety of materials that are available. There are 2 teaching activities. The first one has the kids focus on a scenario. The second talks about what it means to be an upstander or someone who witnesses cyberbullying and says, no, I'm not going to say that that's okay, or I'm not going to let my behavior say that's okay. And then the third one really gives the strategies for, okay, fine, if you're not going to let this happen, then what are you going to do? Again, there's the wrap-up and the assessment. The questions are good in terms of pointing out exactly specifically what the objectives are. And then in the extension and homework, there is also some good information. And one of the things that I didn't mention earlier was that there is also in each of these lessons a clear alignment with the NETS standards for students. The other area then that we were asked to look at is back on the home page. And it is, oh, I'm sorry, it's not. It's back in elementary school. And it's the In Your Community segment. And what this is a kit that you can use to work with parents. Because if you don't have parental support, if the parents are not knowledgeable about what it is you're trying to teach, if they don't understand the strategies that you're teaching the kids, it's difficult for them to know what to do. So in this segment, there is a document or documents that can be downloaded. There's a presentation that can be downloaded. And then there are some additional parent education resources that can be downloaded. And these can be used in conjunction with the lessons on cyberbullying. I wasn't actually surprised by the materials that were presented. And I felt like I had a pretty good handle already on cyberbullying and ways to deal with it. I think the best resource was probably the 4th and 5th grade lesson, which gave the strategies for how to stand up to someone else being cyberbullied. And I think that the parent meeting resource also would be extremely valuable. So that's my quick tour of the Common Sense Media website.